For generations, the heavy iron gates of Buckingham Palace have stood as an unyielding symbol of continuity, anchoring the British crown to the heart of London. Behind those famous stone facades and the iconic balcony where history has repeatedly been written, lies a labyrinth of 775 rooms that have witnessed the rise and fall of empires, the signing of monumental state documents, and the private lives of monarchs who shaped the modern world. When the long and stable reign of Queen Elizabeth II concluded, the global audience naturally expected that the age-old traditions of royal residence would continue without alteration. It was taken for granted that her successor would take up full-scale residence within these historic walls, preserving the legacy established by Queen Victoria nearly 2 centuries ago. Yet, beneath the surface of this grand architectural masterpiece, a subtle but profound transformation has been underway, signaling a quiet departure from the customs that have defined the British monarchy for centuries. The grand corridors that once echoed with the footsteps of emperors and heads of state are now at the center of a historic shift, one that challenges our very understanding of what a royal palace is meant to be in the modern era. As the massive, multi-year refurbishment project nears its long-awaited completion, observers across the globe have begun to realize that the physical restructuring of the building is merely a reflection of a much larger internal evolution within the royal family. This extensive restoration, designed to modernize the aging infrastructure and safeguard the palace for future generations, has inadvertently opened the door to an unprecedented decision that will forever alter the daily routine of the sovereign. For years, royal commentators and the public alike have watched the scaffolding rise and fall around the estate, assuming it was simply a routine preservation of the crown jewel of British national heritage. However, whispers from deep within the palace walls suggest that the conclusion of this monumental project will not bring a return to the status quo, but rather the dawn of an entirely new structural philosophy. If you find these deep insights into the hidden transformations of global institutions compelling, please take a moment to subscribe and join us as we unravel the unfolding chapters of modern history. The ultimate destination of the monarch is no longer what it seems, and the choices being made today will reverberate through the halls of power for decades to come, redefining the boundary between public service and private life in ways that were once completely unimaginable. The architectural identity of Buckingham Palace has always been intertwined with the personal identity of the reigning sovereign, serving not just as an office of state, but as the ultimate sanctuary of the crown. To understand the gravity of the changes currently taking place, one must look back to the year 1837, when a young Queen Victoria became the very first monarch to establish the palace as the official royal headquarters. Since that pivotal moment, 5 subsequent monarchs have called these grand apartments their primary home, creating an unbroken chain of residency that survived world conflicts, economic crises, and intense social change. Each ruler left an indelible mark on the estate, turning it into a living monument of continuity where the line between the individual and the institution became beautifully blurred. The expectation that this pattern would endure into the 21st century was not just a matter of nostalgia, but a fundamental aspect of how the public perceived the stability of the throne itself. Therefore, when senior officials dropped the first hints that the newly renovated apartments might remain vacant of a full-time resident, it sent a ripple of astonishment through traditional circles, raising profound questions about the future of the monarchy. The independent this brings us to the core of an unfolding narrative that balances immense historical reverence with a sharp focus on practical modernization. The keeper of the privy purse, James Chalmers, recently shared an update that caught many off guard, revealing that while the historic estate has undergone an incredible physical renewal, its role as a domestic residence is being fundamentally re-evaluated. The traditional concept of the palace as a permanent residential home is giving way to a more dynamic, operational model that reflects the demands of a contemporary world. According to high-level statements, the royal headquarters will continue to serve as the absolute operational and ceremonial center of the monarchy. But the idea of it being a private sanctuary where the sovereign retires at the end of the day is being set aside. This strategic pivot marks a clean break from nearly 2 centuries of domestic tradition, suggesting that the palace will function primarily as a bustling hive of official activity, a working monument rather than a traditional home. The implications of this decision stretch far beyond the immediate geography of London, hinting at a broader reallocation of royal spaces and a desire to align the institution with public expectations. The Independent showed too. As we prepare to explore the intricate details of this decision, in the next phase of our report, the atmosphere surrounding the British capital is one of quiet anticipation. The traditional image of the monarch returning to the Grand Palace after a long day of state duties is being replaced by a more contemporary arrangement, one that prioritizes efficiency, accessibility, and a clear distinction between official public duties and private domestic life. The upcoming chapters of this transition will reveal not only where the current sovereign chooses to rest his head, but also how the next generation of the royal family views their relationship with this historic structure. The grand spaces of Buckingham Palace are being prepared for an era of unprecedented public engagement, transforming the crown jewel of national buildings into a place that is more accessible to the world than ever before, while the personal lives of its traditional inhabitants find a new rhythm elsewhere. Part 2 of our report will delve deep into the financial realities, the specific alternative residences, and the personal motivations driving this historic shift. The transition from a historic family home into a purely operational headquarters represents a massive departure from the established norms of the British Crown, and the specific financial and structural realities of this choice reveal a deeply calculated strategy for the modern era. At the heart of this development is a staggering $500,000 renovation program, an extensive and meticulous overhaul designed to protect, restore, and update the ancient systems running through the hundreds of rooms inside Buckingham Palace. For years, engineers, historians, and specialized craftsmen have been working behind the scenes to replace outdated wiring, modernize decades-old plumbing, and reinforce the foundational architecture of this massive estate. The public had long anticipated that once the final scaffolding was dismantled and the multi-year project officially concluded, the sovereign would make a triumphant return to the historic private quarters. Instead, the keeper of the Privy Purse, James Chalmers, confirmed an entirely different reality, stating that while the extensive renovations are moving toward a successful conclusion, the private living arrangements of the royal family have shifted permanently. The decision to remain at nearby Clarence House, rather than returning to the grand apartments of the palace, marks a critical turning point, highlighting a conscious choice to separate the administrative machinery of the throne from the daily domestic life of the individuals who wear the crown. This decision becomes even more significant when examining the long-term plans of the next generation of the royal family, indicating that this is not a temporary choice but a permanent institutional shift. Reports from inner circles indicate that Prince William has absolutely no intention of relocating his family to Buckingham Palace when he eventually ascends the throne. Instead, the future monarch, along with his wife, Princess Kate Middleton, and their 3 children, intends to remain firmly established at their chosen forever home at Forest Lodge in Windsor. This collective reluctance across multiple generations to take up full-time residence in the heart of London suggests a fundamental change in how the royal family views the palace, transforming it from a traditional ancestral home into a monument dedicated entirely to statecraft, history, and public engagement. Rather than serving as a private retreat, the newly renovated rooms will be utilized for tactical daily purposes, offering private spaces where the sovereign and senior royals can rest and prepare during a busy schedule of working days without establishing a permanent domestic household. The traditional model of the monarchy, where the private family life and public duties of the sovereign were completely compressed within the same physical walls, is being entirely dismantled in favor of a modern, multi-site approach that prioritizes family stability and functional separation. By stepping away from the traditional residential role of Buckingham Palace, the institution is opening the gates to an unprecedented level of public interaction. a move specifically designed to maximize the utility of a building funded directly by the British public. The historic estate attracts an estimated 700,000 visitors every single year, and the decision to forego private residential status allows the Crown to significantly widen public access, turning what was once a highly restricted private enclave into a shared national asset. A senior spokesperson for the palace emphasized that while the building will absolutely remain a fully functional working home for the monarchy, the primary objective moving forward is to expand the boundaries of public tourism and civic engagement, thereby maximizing the cultural and national benefit of this magnificent structure. King Charles plans to utilize the majestic spaces to host grand state receptions, elaborate garden parties, official summits, and formal credential presentations for newly appointed international ambassadors. The representative clarified that the palace will continue in every traditional way to be the absolute beating heart of the institution, serving as its primary engine of statecraft and national identity, even if it is no longer its primary resting head. This strategic transformation allows the monarchy to project an image of transparency and public service, converting vast, underutilized private areas into dynamic public exhibition spaces while retaining the historic prestige of the throne. The personal circumstances of the reigning monarch add a layer of deep human complexity and vulnerability to this structural transition. As King Charles continues to balance his extensive state responsibilities with an ongoing battle against cancer. The sovereign was diagnosed with the illness following a routine medical procedure for a benign prostate enlargement, an announcement that shocked the international community and placed an immediate focus on his health and daily schedule. Despite the immense physical and emotional demands of his treatment, the monarch has maintained an incredible commitment to his constitutional duties, though his daily routine has been carefully adjusted to ensure his well-being. Recent updates from the palace have offered a beacon of hope, revealing that his rigorous schedule of cancer treatments is being gradually reduced due to the fact that he has responded exceptionally well to the medical interventions. Remaining at Clarence House, a residence that offers a more manageable, familiar and tranquil environment compared to the overwhelming scale of Buckingham Palace, provides the king with the specific comfort and privacy necessary for a steady recovery. The decision to avoid a stressful domestic relocation during a period of complex medical recovery reflects a practical approach to health management, ensuring that the monarch can conserve his energy for critical state meetings and official receptions without the disruption of moving into a sprawling, newly renovated palace, as the physical landscape of the royal estate adjusts to this new operational model. The historical significance of Clarence House as a sanctuary of stability becomes increasingly clear, serving as the quiet backdrop to a reign defined by adaptability and resilience. King Charles and Queen Camilla have shared a deep affection for this nearby residence since their marriage, developing a private domestic routine that aligns perfectly with their personal preferences and modern lifestyle. The grand, echoing corridors of Buckingham Palace, while magnificent for receiving foreign dignitaries and celebrating national milestones, lack the intimate warmth and practical layout required for a modern home, making the decision to stay at Clarence House a natural evolution for a couple that values a clear distinction between public performance and private peace. This geographical arrangement allows the royal headquarters to function as a bustling hive of official activity during daylight hours, while ensuring that the individuals at the center of the storm can step away into a more private, grounded environment at the end of the day. The upcoming final chapter of our report will fully explore the profound long-term implications of this historic transition, looking deep into the biographies of the key participants, analyzing the broader legacy of royal residences throughout British history, and examining how this modernization strategy will preserve the relevance of the crown for generations to come. The historic shift in the residential strategy of the British Crown marks the conclusion of an era while solidifying a calculated layout for the future of the monarchy. By analyzing the deep histories of both Buckingham Palace and Clarence House, it becomes evident that this transition is rooted in a profound reinterpretation of how royal authority should interact with a contemporary society. Built originally in 1703 as a grand townhouse for the Duke of Buckingham, the palace was transformed during the 1820s under the direction of King George IV, who envisioned a monumental structure worthy of a global power. When Queen Victoria officially established it as the primary seat of the royal court in 1837, she initiated a tradition that would link the daily lives of 6 successive sovereigns directly to the heart of the capital. For nearly 2 centuries, this towering edifice served as the backdrop for the most critical milestones of the nation. From the joyous celebration of marriages and births to the somber announcements of conflict and national mourning. However, as the centuries advanced, the physical demands of maintaining an ancient 775-room structure began to clash with the practical needs of a modern working institution, setting the stage for the massive structural evolution we are witnessing today. The Jerusalem Post the decision to remain at Clarence House, a remarkably elegant and historically rich estate situated just a short walk down the ceremonial avenue of the mall, offers a fascinating contrast to the overwhelming scale of the main palace. Built between 1825 and 1827 by the legendary architect John Nash for Prince William Henry, who later became King William IV, Clarence House has long served as a preferred sanctuary for senior members of the royal family. It was the treasured home of Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, for 5 decades, and it also served as the initial London residence for Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip following their marriage in 1947. King Charles moved into the estate in 2003 during his tenure as the Prince of Wales, meticulously restoring its interiors to reflect his deep appreciation for traditional craftsmanship, fine art, and sustainable architectural design. Over more than 2 decades, the King and Queen Camilla have cultivated a profound personal connection to this residence, making it a true home rather than a cold vessel of statecraft. Choosing to retain Clarence House as their primary domestic anchor allows the royal couple to preserve a sense of personal stability and emotional continuity, which has proven absolutely vital as the King navigates his intensive schedule of cancer recovery while simultaneously fulfilling his constitutional responsibilities. Visit London. Shisho 2. This strategic restructuring of royal properties also signals a significant change in how the financial operations of the Crown are presented to the public, emphasizing an unprecedented level of transparency and accountability. The announcement regarding the future of Buckingham Palace coincided with a historic financial briefing where King Charles became the very first British monarch to openly disclose the specific amount of personal income and capital gains taxes paid directly to the government. This disclosure revealed that the sovereign paid over $16 million in taxes for the recent financial year, a gesture that places the monarchy within the framework of modern fiscal responsibility. By combining this historic tax transparency with a clear plan to maximize public access to a building funded by taxpayers, the Crown is actively responding to contemporary expectations of openness and institutional utility. The extensive 10-year project to update obsolete plumbing, replace miles of aging electrical cables, and installs energy-efficient heating systems was funded with the clear understanding that the palace must remain viable for at least another half-century. However, rather than keeping these newly updated spaces locked behind a wall of private privilege, the decision to transform the palace into a fully operational public monument ensures that the collective investment of the nation yields a direct cultural and educational dividend for hundreds of thousands of annual visitors. India Today. Yisho. 1. The broader implications of this geographic division between the operational headquarters and the private domestic residences of the royal family will undoubtedly shape the legacy of this reign and redefine the expectations for the next generation of the monarchy. The fact that Prince William and Princess Kate have firmly chosen to maintain their primary family life at Forest Lodge in Windsor indicates that the traditional model of a centralized royal court is being permanently replaced by a decentralized network of specialized estates. This allows the royal family to raise the next generation of heirs in an environment that offers a semblance of normal childhood development.